Good afternoon, everyone. The today's class of robotics would like to continue with respect to the feedback components, which are playing a crucial role in the robotics for giving the feedback whether the given set of instructions in the form of input are being exercised or not. A comparison ratio plays a major important role for getting accessed with respect to the work parameters based on the given input. Thus, getting organized in a perfect way of getting accuracy or not. Hence, the temperature sensors most probably widely utilizing components in the general environmental sector and the environmental sector, and different components and a wide range of components in order to find the temperature range for different kinds of materials, which will be resistible and exercising starting from this recrystallization range of temperature to the or resistible range of temperature, that is 40 degrees centigrade of temperature, to a maximum range of temperature where the phase transformation taken place, that is in the 1000 degrees centigrade of temperature, and moreover it will be increasing furtherly towards 2600 degrees centigrade of temperature to 3300 degrees centigrade of temperature. It will be depending upon the different kinds of components that resist with respect to the temperature for measuring. Coming to the types of temperature sensors utilized as an detectors in different various fields: thermocouples, thermistors, radiation pyrometers, radiation thermometers, resistance thermometer, temperature detectors varying in its resistance of temperature, fiber optic temperature sensors, silicon temperature sensors. So the different types of temperature sensors utilized in various applications such as HVAC sector, high voltage alternating current range of sectors, such as within a particular environment at a room temperature, at different ducts and refrigerant equipments, and different motors where the overload protection will be getting accessed, where upon rotation continuously the motors detect its overload condition and clearly judge the analysis for safe mode of operations. Electronic circuits, and n number of electronic circuits, whether the current supply is being taking place within perfect amperes range, or else particular voltage maintenance, or else any of the high fluctuations are being taken place in order to protect the entire circuit, nominally the semiconductor protections, for the sake of the semiconductor protection, where the EMF generation takes place, the depletion concept. And even different electronic assemblies plays a major role at the thermal management, the temperature compensation, etc. For the process control, for regulating the temperature, for hiring the temperature, or for lowering the temperature, according to the load implications to be accessed for incrementing or decrementing, or a quick assessment of the work within the industrial prone areas, or in order to slow on the process in such a way. For automotive applications such as air and oil temperature measurements, in order to keep the domestical purposes or else in automatic automotive applications and a safe mode of operating when the dynamical actions are being taken place by the automotive vehicles. And different appliances such as heating appliances or the cooling temperatures, heating and cooling temperatures, where this plays a major role. In order to detect the temperature up to a limiting stage based on the material that are resistible range up to the resistible range, and the cooling temperature nothing but a negative significations, and keeping in a safe mode of operational sectors. So these are the various applications where the temperature sensors plays a critical role in order to protect the environment and the different components while they are in the dynamical motions. Strain sensors. Coming to the strain sensors, the fiber brag grastings technology asked for identifying the deformations. Upon these deformations, will be analyzing the strain occurrence within the sensing devices and give the feedback to the controller in order that the nominal mode of operations has been got changed. And particularly the strain sensors senses as little as the 9 microstrains. This the endurance related to the NRL and United Technology research on an assemblation of 2 or more components. Particularly this strain sensors clearly gives the deformational ranges within the different objects and violating the input parameters or input instructions in the mode of operations, where in the examination process within the industrial sector, it leads to the manufacturing differences. And hence, the quality difference and the quantity and the precision levels of the objects will be getting different. And even the feedback sensors in the case of this biomedical fields, the spectroscopic biomedical sensors is to vary with respect to its color code spectrum deviations, as we have a wavelength range in order to compare with respect to the spectrum, that the blue color indications, color codes specifies the clear-cut indications related to its operational sectors. As the blue color indicates the safe mode of operations, green color is ready for the deformations, that is neither in safe mode of operations and nor in the deviating sector. And yellow color signation next after the green, that signates the variations that are being starting and numerally, and red color implications leads to an maximum variations occurrence within the deviated chambers. Even in the case of this biomedical sensors, the carbon dioxide, the oxygen, and the pH values can be measured simultaneously upon its composition changes. And even if it is the enclosure system, the percentages within the domestical cadre also can be identified and can be transferred by utilizing this ADC circuit or A to D conversion or D to A conversion in the representation of either in the analog format or the digital format in the case of our 7-segmental display. Even the flow monitoring by laser Doppler. Here, flow monitoring in the sense the blood flow analysis can be identified in the biological fields by this Doppler. Nothing. Doppler is nothing but laser Doppler, as the laser beams that will be getting formed, projected towards the body, as those will pass through the body and examine the either of the blocks are being existing on it. And Doppler used to detect the muscle levels, and from one muscle to another muscle, the blood circulation is being taking place or not. That's not even the flow monitoring. So the blood flow monitoring by the veins from one muscle position to another muscle position, the jointal positions, the muscle contraction and elongation, whether that energization is being getting done in a perfect way or not. Is there any blockages occurrence? And if at all, what are the compensatory activities need to be taken? This and all, and the analysis that will be getting done in the case of this biomedical considerations, and those the defects can be identified and sent back to the controller for the necessary mode of operations by this laser Dopplerimetry. And some fibers for examining the ophthalmologic applications in various applications for finding these fiber positions in such a way the sensors plays a major role for examining or giving the uh, active role of the functioning levels, active role or the functioning levels of the objects by sensing and giving us some feedback to the controller. Coming to the electrical and magnetic sensors. So electrical sensors and magnetic sensors and on-and combination also, there's a best combinational way of sensors utilized in different regions for examining various defects or functionalities, I can say. See here, appealing is nothing but the contacting and inherent dielectric nature. Appealing, inherent dielectric nature, less sensitive to electromagnetic interference, but this magnetic field generations and how far it is being generated and how what a range of its parametry get differs in its polar significance either towards the north pole or towards the south pole variations with respect to the particular supporting materials. Here we are having magnetic instance. We have to examine one more thing, that the non-ferrous kind of materials without any composition levels when its materials cannot cooperate with respect to this magnetic variations or magnetic properties. Hence, the ferromagnetic substances plays a major important role for giving the clear-cut significations and having the clear-cut analysis in the functionality levels and that sensors, that's purity levels, polarity variations, directional specifications, magnetic field strength variations, and the work performance within the industrial sector with the help of this electrical power supply for generating of this magnetic field and giving us some feedback to the controllers. And these are very much smaller in size and very much safer in order to examine. Basically, these electrical components which are used as some sensors are very much smaller in size and are safe in the mode of operations. For getting the accurate results, even the sinusoidal variations within the experimentational processes or else in the characterization also will be getting accessed. The components which are utilized in the case of this electrical and magnetic phases or always on hybrid, which are widely used in the research cadre or research orientation for getting the clear-cut analysis for the experimentational sector. So research is clearly initiating the simulation process for the new access. Come to the point of these applications in the case of this electrical and magnetic fields, the compassing and navigation sector will be utilizing and as used in the case of vehicle detection for identification of the route diffracted or route disturbed vehicle for getting the perfect track or analysis, the virtual reality, the horizon position, and real-time basis of examining the overall data, laboratory instrumentations for a clear-cut study and experimentational backup, right from starting the student sector to an upmost sector or upmost cadre for clear-cut examining process. And the medical instruments such as the sphygmomanometer, barometer, etc., which are placing a wide range for contact and as well as non-contact mode of inspecting of the blood pressure, heartbeats, flow rate, etc. And even the underground boring equipment which plays a major role for identifying with respect to this magnetic fields up to a particular depth considerations without any contact, whether is there any blockages or else obstructions are being taking place for the underground flow accessories and even the flux gate replacement sectors. With the concept of this rotation sensor, which is worked on the basis of this Sagnac effect. Here, we are having two types of rotational sensors, which are energizing with on the basis of this ring laser gyroscope and fiber optic gyroscope. Ring laser gyroscope and fiber optic gyroscope. Most probably, these are utilized in US companies for its functionalities, that too at a high performance range, at a high performance range. At a large utilization sector, this fiber optic gyroscopics plays a major important role in the companies such as Honeywell Company, Electron Company, Northrop, Allied Signal, etc. For transmission of the signals from one place to another place for communication sectors. And the pressure sensors here, the pressures are verified with respect to the minimal deflections occurred within the objects, and those sinusoidal changes also will be clearly examined by the technique called the piezo-resistive technique. Most probably, these are utilized based on movable diaphragm, and it's having a greater performance or high performance because of its polarization and arranged when it's operational cadres from 0 to 70,000 tons of pressure. Can have the capability of examining that particular range. Widely utilized for calculating the moments with time basis and the distance basis, variation with respect to the distance as with respect to your timings, normally called as displacement and position sensors. Here, the optoelectronic sensors came into the existence. Nothing but the optical sensors which are energized its behavioral analysis with respect to the electronic components. These are very much simple and change in its retroreflectance due to a proximal mirror surface. In the case of this optical sector, based on the functionalities of having with respect to some technical components of optical source, such as reflection, refraction, and diffraction, based on the application mode will be selecting the technical mode of operations. And even this optical sensors plays a major role that the capability of this beam is having to pass through the medium, the liquid medium, to a particular existence. Hence, is also supported in the case of this liquid level sensors also, indicating the liquid level incrementing or decrementing and its status with respect to timely basis or based upon its discharge capability in the case of the liquids, can have an estimation to which the volume is specified defaultly. In such a cadre, for filling the default volume of components with respect to a particular phase of liquid, analysis of time, the estimation of the time also being done with respect to this proximal based of operating sensors. Why this optical sensors placing a major role? Because it's having, because of its many of highlights. Initially, it's an electromagnetic immunity. It's having best immune capability regarding the electrical and magnetic specifications or parameters or properties, and a best way suited for its electrical isolation, not transfer the electrical or shocks or else additional voltage capabilities back in its operational sectors. It's very much compact and light and weight and easy to monitor, easy to operate, easy to fabricate in the manufacturing regions. Here, both the points and having analyzed in its phase of operation quickly and even in wide range, that is increasing in its opaque nature, increasing in its opaque nature, having a dynamic range, wide dynamic range, having this amenable to multiplexing, subtracting and splitting into n number of fields because of its multiplexing capability and analyzing for its work study. Coming to the point of this optical applications, widely utilized in military and law enforcements, which enables this low light imaging at the television frame rates and having no limitations of vacuum tube based systems. Night vision cameras, which are comprises with respect to the amplified CCD sensor, anti-blooming technology, crystal polymer shutter advantages, and a better range, exceptional daylight resolution, immune to overexposure, very high contrast levels will be existing in the case of this night vision camera. No halogen or scintillations leads to an which leads to an blur kind of situations occurrence in the case of operational modes or capturing of this video, that will be getting avoided because of this dim light situations. So this will be better advantages in the case of this optical sources which are utilized as some sensors. Even in the biometrics, it's the best application widely utilizing in the present day sectors for different range of functionalities. Here, in the case of this biometrics, initially it leads in scanning of our fingerprints and next towards the face recognition and even the eye recognition. So eye in the sense the retinal capability or retinal scanning will be getting taken place in a whole new light, that ultraviolet radiation plays a major role for its scanning. Here, the four features plays a major role in order to match up with respect to the stored data or else defaultly existing data and to the update scanning data. Firstly, the image capture, it was divided into four different basic features. That is image capture, so identifying the image initially, processing the image, and feature extraction and feature comparison. So capturing of the image, processing that image into the directory, and later on extracting it because it has to compare with respect to a particular file signations already stored defaultly, and whether that feature has been satisfied to a maximum level where the feasible variation ranges will be fixed that 80% should be matched or else 90% should be matched or else completely exact considerations should be taken place. Widely we will be seeing in our software offices also there will be an chip card or else a finger scan for posting the attendance or thumb authentication normally will be calling. That is digital signature, we can say digital signature. Here it plays a major role by this optical sources. So scanning and processing it and comparison it and submitting the overall data with respect to the defaultly stored data. Partial discharge detection process, which in this sector will be utilizing uses these optical fiber sensors on a tested basis in order to detect the partial discharges in the case of this electrical transformers. Because in the case of discharging, there is any wastage of or wastage discharge characteristics or discharge characteristics subdivided into different voltage divisions. So there any voltage droppings that are being taken place for non-acceptance of the sent voltage or passed voltage at an receiving point, that leads to identify in the case of this by the utilization of this optical fibers. And relaxation sensors will give the feedback for better way of transferring within constant voltage without happening any of the fluctuations. That leads to create an entire damage of the domestic utilizations or different components based on supporting with respect to or working with respect to the support of this electrical power supply. Almost all we used to observe overall the components that will be working with respect to the based on electricity. And particularly pinpointing such discharges and preventing the insulation breakdown and catastrophic failures. So identifying those kinds of failures and rectifying the issues that has been done by utilizing this optical fiber sensors. Even it leads to identify the insulation deviations also. These are the different kinds of thermal and pressure and optical oriented sensors, type of sensors used in different fields of applications, followed in the case of this robotic technology. Thank you. We'll be meeting in the next class.